What is going on, guys? It is Trifecta J here with my Washington State off-season, and this is just the recap of all of it. And so starting off, of course, we didn't go to a bowl game at 5-7, and this is a look at our schedule. We played a ton of close games, a lot of games that we had a very good chance to win. Did not lose a game by more than 7 points, and I never truly felt out of a game this year. And so this was a very interesting year. I felt like not a disappointing year, as we did meet the target of what our, the athletic department wanted us to get, which was 5 wins. But we do have some very key players graduating, including starting quarterback Connor Halliday, who put up over 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. Also, Marcus Mason, who was our leading rusher, who only played pretty much the second half of the season after I benched Jamal Morrow. Also, Christoph Williams, a tight end who was playing out of position. He is a wide receiver who was moved to tight end to actually have one on the roster. Overall, I thought our defense played okay. They gave up a lot of points most of the time. Did not get a ton of pressure other than Destiny Viao. Forced some turnovers, however, we didn't, I don't even think, force a turnover through the first 4 or 5 games, which is pretty embarrassing. A ton of dropped interceptions, you can see through all those deflections, and forced 5 fumbles. However, we only recovered 1, which was a little disappointing, and we did actually end up with 2 first-team All-Americans in Daryl Monroe and Darius Lamora, 2 players who I felt were very deserving. And then also all freshman team, Charleston White and Darius Lamora get those honors. All Pac-12 first team, the same 2 as the All-Americans. No second team All-American or second team Pac-12 player. But your national champion is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. A little surprising, went 14-0 and beat the Florida Gators, another surprising team, and the national championship. But now we're getting into the offseason. You can see an update on some of the coaching in the Pac-12. The entire Cal staff has been fired. Charlie Weiss is now at Oregon State. And something that was very interesting to me, Steve Spurrier has retired and been replaced by a new coach who I had never heard of. And so now we get to players leaving. Good news to start off, Vince Mailey is drafted, the 6'3" receiver who probably would have gone a little higher if he did not drop nearly 10 balls. But we lose Marcus Mason, who's our starting running back. We lose Cyrus Cohen. We don't lose a ton of players. Most of the players are on offense. We lose our starting defensive tackle and right outside linebacker, nickel corner. But other than that, it's our cornerback, running back, reserve running back, 2 of our top 3 receivers, and then Isaiah Myers, who replaced Ricky Galvin when he went down in the slot. So we lose 3 of them. And next is our recruiting. I thought I had done a very good job getting our recruiting class. We already had 13 players committed coming into the offseason. And so through the last couple of weeks, I was just looking to see if there was any gems I could find. And I found some good ones. Martin Woodard, this is not a JUCO, keep in mind. Same with Richie Wiley, both who will be freshmen. And Woodard, who actually has a very solid chance to start. We have a small lead, but I was just going all out. I wanted the top 2 recruits. Johnny Ham was another one, but I just felt like you'll see in a minute, there was a lot of room to overcome. We hadn't offered him a scholarship. There was a good bit of teams ahead of us, and we would actually just end up putting the rest of our points into Martin Woodard. Both of those players I feel could be keystones to this team. But now advancing to signing day, you'll see I really wanted to get both of them, get another Wiley on this team, and we got both of them, just dominated the competition. Martin Woodard comes in as an 80 overall from Hawaii, trying to build that pipeline, the 51st recruiting class. Not necessarily disappointing. I liked all the guys I got. The one thing to keep in mind is this class does include 4 walk-ons, 3 1-stars, who none of them are very good, and then a 2-star guard, who is Eddie Hines, I believe. E. Hines, not exactly sure what that is. But now going through some of our position changes, most of these are just evening out the balance. With Devontae McLean, I believe his name is, he will be competing with Eduardo Middleton for the right guard spot. Middleton started last year, but just trying to get some more competition going. And other than that, that was pretty much it. We moved Timothy Love, one of our recruits, to left guard, and moving into training results, this team got a good bit better, and this is the number one concern for me. Quarterback is Luke Falk or pretty much Peyton Bender. I don't think starting either the freshman you recruited would be very smart. One of the things that I feel like we're definitely going to have to rely on our running game. Two incredibly solid backs in Jamal Morrow and Gerard Wicks. They're sort of a complement to each other in a speed and power way, but Gerard Wicks is not slow by any standard. He is almost as fast as Morrow, and they're both pretty good at breaking tackles. I feel like our receiving core is going to be very good again. Gabe Marks and Dom Williams on the outside, and then LaRue and River Craycraft, a guy I redshirted, will compete for that slot role. All four of them, though, will be our four wide sets, and all of our offensive linemen do return. I don't know if any, or at least the starters do, so this should be a much better unit. The one thing to keep in mind is that right tackle spot, there will be a competition. I love what I saw out of Martin Woodard. He appears to be a guy who could start day one. Pretty much everyone on our defense except for our starting defensive tackle and also our right outside linebacker all return. But there are a ton of seniors on this defense. We have like 3 left outside linebackers, 1 right outside, 2 middle, none in the secondary except for Taylor Taliulu. So that should definitely improve. I really want to see that. And we graduate our kicker, so we'll have to find a new one of those, as he actually got a good bit better, as last year his range was pretty much 50 and in. Hopefully he can hit past 50. But now moving on to my least favorite part of the offseason, cutting players. First player is Zach Herron, a walk-on who 40 overall, was never going to play. He was terrible. Another is Pat Cole. He is another walk-on from Canada, but he had around 83 speed. That is not okay for my cornerbacks. Aaron Mason, a 50 overall walk-on, gets cut. And Jacob Seidel, it sort of sucks to have to cut a senior, but he was never going to play. He was really bad. And then this is one of the cuts I hated to make. Brandon Evers, he was very slow, and there just was not anyone else I really felt like cutting. I felt like I could get some better recruits in, as both of those positions on the offensive line are pretty much secured for next year. The only thing it hurts is our guard depth, but Richie Wiley will be getting the red shirt along with Xavier Archie, keeping 2 of those freshman tight ends active. Timothy Love gets the red shirt. One player who does not is Martin Woodard. Like I said, starting day one, he will be our starting right tackle. That could change, but Jesse Shaw also gets the red shirt along with Jimmy Benson and Gibson, a defensive tackle. Brian Wiley also gets the red shirt, a guy I was very excited for, but not a lot of room. Like I said, we have I think around 6 or 7 senior linebackers. And just a very quick preview of recruiting. One player I wanted to show you I found from Pullman, Washington, a 6'8" beast. He's a speed rusher off the edge. I want to get him as we are graduating a couple of defensive ends, and he might be a player who has a chance to play from day one. But now, another year of low expectations, predicted for 5th in the North, however 7th overall, so it looks like the Pac-12 South might be a little down this year. So that could be a very interesting thing. You can see the top 25, Nebraska, Florida, UCLA, Texas, and Oregon State is your number 5 team. You can see where we stand at 52, near teams like Marshall, Ball State, Iowa State, and Utah. Quick look at the Heisman. The front runner to begin is Jamal Williams, followed by Todd Gurley, Jeff Driscoll, Brett Hundley, and Melvin Gordon. None of those bottom 4 went pro, so they should be very interesting. But to begin the year, our first game is at home against Georgia State. This should be a game that we can definitely win, but a stat that really shows you our quarterback situation, our returning leading passer is Jamal Morrow, our starting running back. That's not a situation you ever want to be in. But we start off the year against Georgia State, then Wyoming, and travel to one of the toughest places to play, I feel, Virginia Tech. And then we finish up non-conference play after our first conference game against Idaho at Idaho, renewing that rivalry. And we finish off the year against, I believe, number 17, number 5, and number 18. So a very tough way to end the year. But moving on to some practice, I'm just going to break down this roster. So, quarterback spot is not locked up yet. Luke Falk is going to be our day one starter, but Peyton Bender will get some playing time in our first game. Hopefully that becomes a blowout so he can get on the field without worrying, and we'll see how those two perform and which one, if one can sort of pull away in the job. But both of them, their arms are actually a little better than I first thought, but neither of them are accurate at all. Peyton Bender is actually the more accurate quarterback, but Luke Falk has a little more speed to his game, so that is something to keep in mind. But this is actually a new playbook I've installed. It's very similar, but features a little more pistol and just stuff like that. And running back, I feel like will be a huge strength. I think we'll rely a whole lot on this running game to begin the year, at least, with Gerard Wicks and Jamal Morrow, both very capable backs. Jamal Morrow struggled a good bit last year, but hopefully he can come out and sort of rebound in his sophomore year. Same with Gerard Wicks. He didn't play a whole ton, but I hope he can be sort of the power to Jamal Morrow's speed. And then our third running back, as I redshirted the two freshmen, is Keith Harrington. I'm not sure if you'll see any of him in practice, but he is not really I don't see him playing a whole ton. Maybe if someone gets hurt or if someone is just exhausted. But other than that, I don't see him playing a ton. Wide receiver, I feel, could be a very good position for us, even if our quarterback isn't great. Hopefully they can bail him out some. Our top four are all 80 overall, so that is a very good unit, but just a ton of depth. After the fifth is Brett Bartolone, and I'm not so sure about him. But moving towards tight end, we have only freshmen on this roster. Coming in, there wasn't even one on the team. Christoph Williams was playing out of position. We'll have to see. One is more of a blocking threat and one is more of a receiving threat. Now moving on to the offensive line, every starter returns. Only difference is Martin Woodard will be getting the start day one at right tackle, as he is already one of our best players on this entire team. Defensive line returns Destiny Viau, who I felt got snubbed on the All-American or at least All Pac-12 team. But other than that, we return Xavier Cooper. Robert Barber, who was our second defensive tackle last year, returns, along with Maurice Christ, who is a senior this year, will be getting the second defensive tackle spot early in the year. We'll see how that holds up. But other than that, our linebacker core, we lose our starting right outside linebacker, but there's just a ton of depth. I think, like I said earlier, 6 seniors or something crazy like that, all near the 80 overall. So I've installed in our defense a couple of 4 and 5 linebacker sets to get all of that talent onto the field. And then moving into the secondary, we do lose Tracy Clark, he was our nickel corner last year, but we have a ton of youth. The oldest player is Daquan Brown, who is only a junior. Everyone else is at least a sophomore or a freshman. So Jeff Farrar will be taking over the nickel duties, along with Kevin Griffin or Marcellus Pippins will be our dime corner, and I feel very confident in all of those. And then our safeties, we return both starters. The one thing, a player who never really played last year is David Buchanan, I believe is his name. He's the brother of Deion Buchanan of the Arizona Cardinals, who is a strong safety, and because of how good he is, I have installed a 3 safety look to get him on the field along with Taliulu and Lamora. So that should be very interesting. But you're getting your first look at Peyton Bender here. Him and Gerard Wicks are on the field, just doing some practice. But then our special teams, I don't have a for sure kick returner yet. I loved what I saw from Ricky Galvin and Theron West after Galvin went out for the year, as they combined for around 2,000 yards returning. If that was one player that most likely wins the award for best returner. But at kicker, Descalo and Breschers both return, and hopefully our kicker's range can improve a good bit. But also now you're getting a look at the backup receivers. I believe 2 of them redshirted, and then Robert Lewis is the other one who had like 1 catch last year. But I feel pretty good about all of them. 2 of them have like 90 plus speed, so could be sort of deep threats. But other than that, I feel like this team has a lot of promise moving forward. This is a team that we start off 2 easy games before traveling to a very tough environment in Lane Stadium, in which will be Luke Falk's first time ever playing on the road, which should be a very interesting moment for him as he's traveled on the road but never actually taken the field. But our first game is against Georgia State, and this should be a very interesting game. I hope that we can just destroy them and have a good bit of our questions answered. But I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like down below. Leave your comments on the off season. And I am super excited for week 1, but I'm out.